Hey everyone, I'm Austin.
And I'm Mitch.
And this is Super Platinum Achievement. Before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check out our giveaway tab right here. We're always doing giveaways, and to see if one is live right now, you could win some stuff. And today we are doing a list of the most emotional gaming scenes. A lot of tears were shed over this list, and you're about to find out right after this.
So we decided to do a list of most emotional scenes in video games. And we got to the part where we're going to rank them. We were originally going to do a top 10, and we just couldn't find it in our hearts to put one above the other. So we're just going to give you a list of 10.
Yeah, in no particular order.
The 10 most emotional scenes.
We're still doing a countdown, so don't worry about that. And, just have to say now, spoilers ahead if you haven't played some of these games, in all of them, because it's pretty much spoilers the whole way
So
around.
we'll say the title, and then we'll say what it is first, so that way if you haven't played it, you can skip it or something like that, and try and avoid a spoiler. But we're going to start off with our number 10.
Number 10.
And that is Ghost of Tsushima. Spoiler warning, very new game. And that's when Taka dies. Not just dies, he is brutally murdered.
In front of you, at the hands, with your weapon, at the hands of Khotun Khan. And, it's pretty freaking intense, and it's definitely emotional, because Taka becomes, probably one of your favorite characters that's helping you along the way, and the only reason he's in this situation is he was trying to save you, and gets captured, and then he dies right in front of you.
Yeah, and it's one of those scenes where, yes, it's sad, but it pisses you off.
Mm-hmm.
I was angry. I was gripping my controller so hard. I'm like, I am ready to send your best warrior!
Khan!
That leads us to the next one, number 9.
Number 9.
Number 9 is also on Ghost of Tsushima. We're just going down the list here, so you're not worrying about jumping around. It's the end of the game where you actually have to fight your uncle, Lord Shimura, and it's a different emotion than like the previous one we hear. It's not like a sad. It's just like, what? Like, I don't want to do this kind of thing, but you have to, and you either have to kill him or let him live. And I think both of us actually did let him live, which I think is technically the right way to end the game, because you could straight up kill him at the end, but if you did that, you are just a piece of garbage, and you need to just go bury yourself in a hole and just enjoy your 7th ring of hell down there, and Dante would be smiting you or whatever. It's just
very emotional, very gripping,
and it's sad too, because he's essentially your dad that you've more or less.
He was your dad from like a part of the game. He legally adopts you.
Yeah, which is weird because you're older than adoption age. But you're supposed to take over for him, and then you become the ghost and renounce the samurai.
Dishonor.
You dishonor your family. And it just comes to a head at the very end where you and Lord Shimura, he's the man of honor and you're the man of the people, really, and it's kind of what happened. And boy,
all around emotional game, fantastic.
The game itself, yeah. So that's that.
Going on to number 8.
Number 8.
That's Assassin's Creed Black Flag. So once again, spoiler, this is at the end of the game. In the beginning of the game, you are telling your fiance that you are going pillaging, basically, to try and get some money for them to have a life together. And of course, if you play the game, you realize that just becomes his life of being a pirate. And he's gone for, 7 years?
Yeah, quite a while.
I believe. And at the very end of the game, you finally, earn enough money, you get your own island, your own town, and you send for your fiance, and when the boat shows up, you realize that your fiance is dead, but off the boat comes your 7-year-old daughter.
Yes.
Which is extremely emotional, gripping. The game ends with him kneeling down to her level and handing her a flower, and that's it. It's like, wow, this brutal character that you are through the whole game, this pirate, is now a father, and He achieved his dream of being able to support his family, but he's missing the woman he loves.
Yeah.
Very sad, very good.
Great
One of the most emotional scenes, or probably the most emotional scene.
And I think
in
if you're a
Assassin's
parent,
Creed.
like this guy over
Yeah.
here, it might hit you a little harder
A little
too.
bit harder, yeah.
So I mean, I definitely agree with Mitch, but maybe he's got a little different perspective
Little bit.
than myself.
Yeah.
And that leads us to number 7.
Number 7.
Number 7 is more my pick because Mitch unfortunately has not played this series, and that is the death of Sniper Wolf in Metal Gear Solid. Sniper Wolf is one of your main adversaries in the game, one of the mini bosses that you fight in it, and you eventually do take her out. Obviously, it's you or her, so you do kill her, and then it ends in this cutscene soliloquy of who she is, like as she's dying, coughing up blood, and saying she doesn't resent you, and it's like she's just that's just her life, and she's a sniper, so she's waiting, and she was waiting for death, and you finally brought it to her, and so it's kind of emotional. Of course, it's very Kojima with the cinematic, and back in '98 when this game came out, it was like a kind of a really big scene.
Yeah.
At least it stuck with my mind.
I did watch the scene just so I had an
Yes.
idea because
So
I don't know if I'm gonna go back and play these.
So
games,
and then then your Otacon comes in, and he is like crying over her, and it's pretty emotional scene, and kind of interesting. So yeah, number 7, Metal Gear Solid: The Death of Sniper Wolf.
Moving on to number 6.
Number 6.
And that is in The Last of Us Part 2. Although we did not love the game, there is one of the most emotional scenes ever in the game. And once again, spoiler, that is when Joel dies. And he dies in front of Ellie by getting
In a bad way.
beat with a golf club.
Yeah,
And
there's brain matter involved. It just wasn't a pretty sight.
but it makes you mad, it gives you the motivation, and that's what we thought was starting an amazing game, and it was for a while, but
Yeah.
the scene as itself, if we're just looking at that, very emotional, very angry and sad. The next,
I mean,
5,
you're
10
the character
minutes
you just played as in the first game
Yeah.
for hours and hours and hours. Just
for a majority of the game.
dies in front of you, and I actually texted him. I turned the game off. I said I hate this game.
Yeah.
Because I was just
I mean,
angry.
Joel's one of your favorite characters.
I mean, yeah, it's like you love Joel, and it's just he gets, he's of course a conflicted man, but his heart was always in the right spot, and he just gets killed in such a bad way. So just
Awful.
rough. And that leads to number 5.
Number 5.
So number 5 for me is also another Metal Gear Solid game, but this one's Metal Gear Solid 4, particularly the end of the game where, you're it's kind of the whole final act, I would say, is Act 5 when you're in Outer Haven, but definitely the end when, you kind of find out everything connects, of course, with the Patriots and all that stuff, and then you gotta go stop, Revolver Ocelot or Liquid Ocelot or Liquid or whoever his name is at that point, I forget. But then, you find yourself having to get to him is, you have to crawl through this tube of microwaves, which is, I don't know why, but whatever. So, you have your suit on, which would protect you a little bit, but as you're crawling in there, your suit's burning off and busting off. And the while this is going on, it's split screened and showing every other character just, about ready to die, get killed. These machines are coming to get all of them. Every character you've known from every game is all in the end here, about to die. Your favorite characters, Meryl and stuff, are just getting shot left and right. Somehow are still hanging on, fighting people. It's quite an amazing scene. And you're crawling in and just you have to go save them. And that's what the driving force is. You finally get through, and then you face your adversary for years and years and years. On top of this giant submarine ship, and you guys duke it out, and it spans I loved it because the life bar and the music starts from Metal Gear Solid 1, goes to 2, goes to 3, and ends at 4, and it's like there's 4 parts to this fight, and it was so well done, and it was a great way to wrap up the series with Solid Snake, I should say, not Big Boss. That got wrapped up later, but it was so well done, and it was, for me, stuck out so well. And it is pretty emotional because it's like, if you were a fan of the series and it ends like that, you're just like, wow, that was top notch. So that was for me. Number 5 is the end of Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots.
Going on to number 4.
Number 4.
Moving on to number 4. That is Gears of War 2. And Dom, the character Dom, your driving force throughout the entire game is to find Maria, Dom's wife. And you finally do find Maria, and she is alive, and when Dom finds her, he imagines her being perfectly healthy, exactly how he remembers her, and everything's happy, but then you realize that Dom's hopes and wishes are clouding his mind, and Maria is no longer the person she once was, and she is more or less turned into this zombie that she's more dead than alive. She's been tortured and just mentally abused where she is no longer herself. And you're holding your almost lifeless wife in your arms, and Marcus is there watching the whole time, trying to get Dom to come to this realization that she is no longer his wife in that way. And then once it does happen, it's just devastating, extremely emotional. Marcus leaves, and all you hear is the gunshot of Dom putting her out of her misery. One of the most emotional scenes in any game, always a tearjerker, and at the same time it gives you that anger to go on and kill the bad guys.
Fight the Horde.
Yeah.
And that leads us to number 3.
Number 3.
Number 3 is just the game of God of War.
Yeah.
I mean, in particular, there's definitely some scenes. The opening scene.
That is the most recent God of War, we have to clarify.
2018.
Yeah.
Is, the opening scene is you are gathering wood to build a funeral pyre for your wife, which you've never met, and it still somehow makes you emotional, which is kind of crazy.
Well, she chose each tree for her
so she marked
pyre
each,
herself.
marked each tree with a handprint, and then you're chopping them down and bringing them across, and then you end up building a pyre, and the whole game is set up bringing her ashes to the top of the tallest mountain, which leads you on the whole journey, and it's that's what it's based off the whole time. Then this does culminate obviously at the very end when you actually get to the top of the tallest mountain in all the 9 realms, and you find out the big secret at the end, which then again that was just like a whoa,
It's all just amazing.
Huge
and
emotional
the whole
scene.
journey with you and Atreus.
The father-son dynamic, and
Yeah.
just Atreus, you're not telling him the whole truth because he doesn't know about you. I mean, Kratos is the god from he's the god of war of Greece, so he's now in Scandinavian area, and Atreus doesn't know his past. He doesn't know he's a god, and then there's that dynamic going on, and then Atreus finds out he is a god, or like a son of a god, I should say, and just then he has emotions, and it's like the whole game's pretty much like an up and down roller coaster, and it ends in just such a emotional way. You finally bring the wife who you've never met,
As a player, obviously.
yes, as a player,
Yeah.
to the end of the game, and you're just like, wow, what a game. So pretty much the whole game of God of War, but it's definitely some scenes in there in particular were
But the whole game, we couldn't
very
choose
well
just
done.
one, so
Yeah.
whole game. Moving on to number 2.
Number 2.
That's back to the Gears of War franchise, and not as many people have played this one because Gears of War 4 left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth, but Gears of War 5 is a phenomenal game, and there is a scene towards the end where you have to choose who lives and who dies, and it affects the rest of the game story-wise, and you are literally sitting there, and the main bad guy, who is a different version of your mother now, she's been corrupted, is holding both Jake, your best friend, and your other newer best friend who you've become closer to and most recently, and basically you can only save one of them. And you don't realize what's going to happen. You're like, oh, if I save one, the other one will somehow escape or whatever. But no, as soon as you are able to save one, she takes the other one and kills them in front of you. And it's just such a shocking moment. I looked at both ways. I chose to kill the friend because I liked Jake. And, obviously that's devastating and horrible, but more emotionally, I went back and I did it again just to see the other aspect of it. And I chose to kill Jake, and having to tell Marcus that Jake is dead is just like, oh my word, phenomenal. Because if you don't know, Jake is Marcus's son, Marcus Phoenix. And just having to make that choice yourself and not just watch it added a whole new aspect to the game. I was in tears. I cried. And I'm, that way. But, phenomenal. It was just well done. I think Gears of War 5 is a masterpiece. Number 2.
Number 1.
And that leads us to number 1, which this one, for me, I think is the most emotional scene. And that is for the game Red Dead Redemption 2. I don't want to get into it much because Mitch actually hasn't played it.
And I'm going to play it.
But
yes.
So unfortunately, I don't want to give the full spoiler away. But for those of you who have played it, it's the end of the game. It's just, if you know, and if you played it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's one that, it was one of those, I beat the game, and I kind of just sat back, and just what? I don't know. I don't know if I was at peace or but at the same time, I'm sad, and there's leading up to this point. I mean, I don't know if I want to spoil this to Mitch, but I probably won't. Someone close to you dies, and you're like, no! I was so mad at that part, and then the ending of the game just happens, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this game was just a emotional roller coaster in the last act for sure. So, Red Dead Redemption 2 probably is up there. I mean, it packed its punches throughout the whole game, but the ending of that was just boom, so emotional and tough, but also at the same time just kind of yeah, it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. So.
That is our top 10 in really no particular order. I mean, a little bit, but not really. We couldn't decide 100%. Most emotional scenes in video game history.
Yeah, what are your most emotional scenes that maybe we didn't think about or haven't played? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to like this video. So make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already. Ring that notification bell so you know right away when we post a new video. And check out our social medias, all at Super Platinum Achievement. We post great memes on Facebook and Instagram and do more giveaways on those platforms that we don't even talk about over here.
Yeah.
And speaking of giveaways, we might have an active giveaway right now if you just check out the giveaway tab we mentioned earlier in the show. So please check that out. And until we be seeing you on next time on
Super Platinum Achievement.
See you guys.